Hi there, welcome to Transcorner Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2025 Wildwood 40Rlb. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice on the far right there, you are pre-mounted for a liquid collapsible stair system. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact the parts department. It's going to be a great little addition for your camper so you can get up and check all your seals periodically without the need to have an actual ladder laying around. Again, just great little addition. You got your cable satellite inlet right here at the back. Popping that guy open, and that is where you're going to get your two hookups. Then come around the driver's side of the unit. Got your first drain. This is going to be your gray tank drain. This is going to be from your sinks and your showers. You're going to want to empty this one last. This is going to be your cleaner water of all the waters. And then coming up a little more up front, you got your city water connection, so if you're at a site with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. Then you do have your fresh water connection, so if you're at out boondocking, your campsite doesn't have water service, you can just thread a garden hose, put a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to fill up that water tank, and that's what your water pump draws off of. You can also siphon water into it, so that's an option as well. And then right down below the floor here, you do get the drain for your fresh water tank. Pulling that white valve, it's going to drain any water that's inside that tank out. You got your standard 50 amp twist lock connection. Just take a note of that silver strip there. It lines up with this silver strip on this side. Lining those guys up, pushing it firmly into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 50 amp plug end. Now a lot of campsites in Manitoba may not have this, so we do include this 30 amp dog bone adapter. Just keep it in mind when you're ever using the 30 amp dog bone adapter, if your unit's equipped with 2 air conditioners, you can only run 1 air conditioner at a time on a 30 amp service. But with that full 50, you can run both of them at the same time. And then we do also include a 15 amp park adapter, which is a standard household outlet to go down from that 30. Just keep it in mind if you are doing that, you're not going to be able to run any air conditioners. It's really just to run your fridge and your lights. Plug that in. And then at the back here, you're going to have your other sewer exits, and pardon me, that back one, I did make a mistake. That's not going to be your gray. That is going to be for your washer dryer hookup. So if you've had a washer dryer installed, that's going to be what you have to have open whenever you're using it. Then you got your gray, your black, and this front one here is going to be your galley. You're always going to want to empty the black one first. This is going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. Then you can come behind that with these 2 other guys, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks, showers, stuff like that. Got your 2 low point drains, so if you want to drain any water out of the lines, or if you finish winterizing your unit for the year and you want to let some of that antifreeze out, it is a good idea. Hot water service port, opening up this guy. Power switch on the far right is the main thing you need to worry about. Turning that on supplies power to the thermostat inside. And then you do get your pressure relief valve. So we're going to go over a few winterizing notes. If you've had a camper before and you did the winterizing yourself, you probably had a tank water heater, in which case there's bypass valves behind there which you had to turn because you don't want to run antifreeze into that system. This system is the complete opposite. There's no bypass valves behind it, so you run antifreeze through it, and once you're done winterizing completely and you ran fluid through all the lines, you're going to want to lift this pressure relief valve and leave it cracked open for the duration of winter, so that way once we start getting those super cold winter months, when the antifreeze starts gelling up, it has a place to escape if it needs to, so you don't crack any lines inside of there. You do have a black tank flush, so if you're noticing false monitor panels or odor around the unit, this is a good way to flush out that tank, just making sure you do read the caution sticker first. You do have to have the tank connected and the valve open. Reason being, if you're pushing pressure inside of the tank and the pressure's got nowhere to go, it could expand that tank to the point of cracking. That's your furnace exhaust, so whenever your furnace is running, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Shower, 751 key to open up that little exterior shower. And then you come to your front storage compartment, opening up this guy. That's where you're going to find your starter kit. Inside that starter kit just comes with a basic 10-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, and some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter. And in addition, whenever you are storing things inside of here, you're always going to want to be mindful of your RAM for your VersaTilt bed, as well as all that wiring. Never going to want to affect any of that. So just being mindful of how much stuff you do put in there. Then come around to the front of the unit. Inside that black box is going to be your battery, and then you got your 2 standard propane tanks here at the front. Typically, you get what you need done just by lifting up this cover by releasing the 2 tabs. But for the purpose of the video, I'll take this right off. And you get your 2 standard 30-pound propane tanks. Regularly right at the front here with it pointed this way. You're going to be drawing off this tank. If this tank were to go dry, close it off, disconnect it, and then you can start running off this tank once you switch that over. Like any standard barbecue, counterclockwise all the way, it opens up the flow of propane. Now coming around to the passenger side of the unit, you got your main entryway door, which is what we'll be going into today. It's also your private bedroom door, and then you got your main entryway door, which is your patio door set. Get the stairs down, works both ways for the patio and this one. Just pull the stairs down, the last one comes out, then you can open up that handle and take a step on inside. Taking a step on this side, you first come into your bedroom area, but to get those slides open, you do have to come into the main living space. Once you are in this main living space here, you got a switch right in the middle. That big switch turns on all the main living space lights, and it's also on a dimmer, so wherever you leave it is where those lights will stay. Now, before we go to run those slide outs, we'll just explain it a little bit first. It's on a hydraulic system, so it's going to first push out the slide with the least resistance first, and then it'll start pushing out the other one. So typically your bedroom always goes out first, and then your couch dinette slide out will go next, and then last but not least, kitchen slide will go out at last, as it's the most heavy. Now whenever you're running your slide outs, always making sure you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. You're not going to want to be running it into anything. Now pushing and holding the slide out button, those slides are going to start making their way out. And once fully extended, you hear the motors wind up, the lights start to dim a little bit. Now because I'm unsure of how much space I do have on the other side of my slide here, I'm going to just go double check and make sure I have enough room. Continue pushing out those little slides. So you're going to see this dinette slide will start going out next. And then last but not least will be this kitchen slide, as it is the most heavy, so it's also going to come in first. So you heard the motors wind up, the lights started to dim a little bit. Now would be a good measure. If you want to be sure that all the slide outs are at their full extension, just double checking that this rubber seal sits flush against the wall, sealing off any water from coming on inside, and you're good to go. Next, you do have your monitor panel system up top. Pushing the button will give you the corresponding level, and that goes for all of it. Then you got your water pump switch, which does draw out of your fresh tank. And then you have your awning LED light switch, as well as an accent light switch, which turns on some backlighting behind those slide outs. And then you get your awning control. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get the awning all the way out today. But if we peek our head out at the side, I just want to be sure that we're not running anything into it. So one thing I forgot to mention while I'm checking now, this door here, if you have it opened up all the way, it is going to run into contact with the awning arm, which is going to cause some damage. So before you ever run your awning, always making sure that this bedroom door is closed 90 degrees, allowing that awning arm to travel in and out freely. Push and hold the out button, the awning is going to start making its way out. Once it does hit its full extension, which unfortunately we're not going to be able to get to today, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and the little flap hang down. Maybe we will actually today, just due to the height. There you go. Now we got that flap down and the back of the metal tube. Sometimes the flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it and pull it back out a little bit just to get that to gradually hang down. Now, if it were to start raining, you can take any arm, front or rear, pulling down at the center. It's going to change the pitch, the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better, because it allows for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just making sure you do push both arms back to straight, their natural resting position for when you bring it in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And of course, you're always going to want to keep an eye on the wind speeds when you have this out. Once you start getting to about 5-kilometer-an-hour winds, it's going to be a good idea to bring it in because it does act like a wind sail and it won't take much to rip it off or rip your fabric. And then of course, if you do bring it in during a storm because it's just too aggressive, if it's wet when you bring it in, try and put it back out at your next earliest convenience to allow it time to dry off so you don't accelerate the growth of mold or mildew. Whenever you are bringing the awning in, the awning just starts rolling its way in, making sure that the awning is rolling the right way in. Once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motors are going to automatically cut out. One more minute, it should be nice and in. And there we are. So that is going to be it for the monitor panel system. We'll come back to finish the rest of the unit once we finish off the bedroom. Once you're in the bedroom, you're going to notice a few different things. You got some chairs stacked on the bed here. That's just from where your little bar area is. That's just because once the slide outs come in, there's not enough room for these guys to stay. So the safest spot for them is just where they are. Same thing goes with the screen door. The screen door will have to be installed once you do get to your trailer. Got all your light switches on the wall. So that first light switch is going to turn a porch light on outside, and this light switch does these main area lights. Cable satellite outlets, it's going to be the main one. Pushing the black button turns the green light on. Now that does turn the antenna on the roof. It's going to also improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So we typically recommend leaving it on during camping time. But when it does come time to leaving your camper, making sure you do remember to turn it off because it does draw battery power. All the blinds in the unit are going to work the same way. They're just going to kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to retract back up. Whenever you're using any of the storage inside this unit, which there's tons of it, always just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. Got your main fuse and breaker panel down here, popping that guy down whenever a breaker trips. It's going to sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and back on again to reset it, and all your corresponding fuses will be on the right. The bed here, if you pick up at the foot, which we can't now because the stuff's stacked on top of it, it's going to give you access to that front storage compartment. Inside there's also going to be all the attachments for your central vac system. Inside this closet here, this is where you're pre-plumbed for a washer dryer combo. If you'd like to get set up with that, again, just contact your parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out with that. You are pre-plumbed and pre-wired for it. And if you open up this closet, one thing you're going to notice is those water lines right over there. Now when it does come time to winterize, even if you don't have the washer dryer combo installed, you do have to make sure you winterize these lines. Just one thing to keep in mind when it comes time of the season. Versus tilt bed control, up is up, down is down. Keeping in mind it is all the way up right now, just because if it were to be all the way down, you wouldn't be able to get the slide fully closed without that running into your dresser. This thermostat here is pre-mounted and pre-hooked up, just for if you were to get a second AC installed up front here. If you'd like to get set up with that, again, just contact your parts department. Again, they'd be more than happy to help you out, but that's what this thermostat's for. It's not going to be hooked up through anything else. Opening up the door in the hallway here, you got your central vac system. Insert the tool, turn it on, and that's where you're going to suck in through. You also have what's called the dustpan system here, so if you sweep up a bunch of dirt and dust in front of it, turn it on, it's going to suck it in. Everything does get sucked into this bag. So just being mindful of what you do suck into that special little trap here. It's really just for dirt, gravel, and things like that. You're not going to want to put any sticks or anything in there. Getting our lovely camera person through. We can then take a step on into the bathroom. Light switch on the right. You got your main GFI plug on the wall. So if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look. 90% of the plugs are going to be hooked up through that GFI system. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bathroom, sink, shower, things like that. And when it comes time to operating the vent, it does work a little differently. You have to turn the fan on before you try and lift it up or down. Once the fan's on, it will allow you to raise that fan. Now this customer already opted for the vent cover system, which is a great addition for your camper. And then down to go down. And then just the power switch once that's all the way down like so to turn it back off. You get your toilet Again, pretty much just like home. Flusher is going to be on the right. Now into the main living space, which is kind of the best part. You got your fire extinguisher right next to that patio door. If you ever need to use it, you just pull the pin and shoot. Opening up this door gets you into your little pantry space. The light switch is on the right. Tons of storage space, and they did mount the thermostat for the water heater inside here. So pushing that power button, Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button, change your set temperature by going up or down. As an added safety feature, so kids can't scald their hands, they do lock it to 50 degrees Celsius right off the bat. But if you push and hold that button for about 5 seconds, it does unlock it and allow you to go up to 55. So hopefully your kids aren't watching this. Otherwise, they know your trick. And then if you want to drop it down below 50 again, you just do that and it automatically locks itself once again. Now in here, you got your little bar area. That is going to be, your fridges are only shore power, so they're only going to work if you're plugged in. You got your little bar sink here. Opening up this guy, these little 2 screws are going to get access to your water pump for winterization. Then on the wall, you got your main thermostat, and that's what's going to be hooked up to your rear air conditioner, as well as the furnace and everything inside of here. So push that button once, it's going to illuminate itself. Push it again, you're going to go into mode. Pushing it a second time will take you into your fan control, which we'll go into first. So you can run that fan on either high or low speeds, in which case you're moving air around using the air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. Push the button a couple more times, you can go back to off to turn it all off. Push the button twice again to get into your different modes. So you got cool, so that's going to be air conditioning. When you got the auto above the high there, that means it's an on-demand system. So with the air conditioner running, if the room is set to 16 and we're at 22, once the thermostat senses the room is at 16 degrees, it'll automatically cut out the air conditioner. If you don't have the auto on there, it is going to run full-time continuously, so just keep that in mind. One more from cool, take you into heat. So that's going to kill the air conditioner and fire up the furnace. The furnace does run off propane, and because you're equipped with propane, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. So if that guy does start going off, just turn off your main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents to let some fresh oxygen inside of here. And then aside from the heat option, you got dry, which is a dehumidifying mode, and then a cool thing Coleman did is they got a cool plus heat mode. So whenever you're in that, it's going to fire up either which, depending on what it thinks it needs. And then to turn that all off, you just go over back to off, and everything does turn off. Whenever the furnace is running, it runs for an additional three minutes to allow itself time to cool down. The furnace does move all its air through the floor portals we have throughout the unit. The air conditioning moves its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Now into this space, main living space here, you got this little light switch. Turning that on, turns on this accent lights above our head, which is a great little addition for that. Kitchen sink. This is probably one of the coolest kitchen sinks they've had in a while. You got a cup washer right here on the left. Now if you have a young kid, you might want to find a cover for it, because if the system's pressurized and you hit it, it is going to spray water out. It probably will hit the ceiling if there's no cup on there, so just keep that in mind. And it's also another thing you have to winterize again, so just keep that in mind as well. You got this little power button here. Now it doesn't actually power anything, it does just close the drain. So you turn it one way, it closes the drain. You turn it the other way, it opens the drain. And then you got your water control. When you turn it to the right, it runs off the faucet head. When you turn it to the left, it operates the garden sprayer. You're gonna have also a bunch of different sink attachments that go into the sink for the garden sprayer. Those are gonna be located underneath that front bed with your vacuum tools. And you got a soap dispenser. The bottle is screwed on right underneath, so if you want to fill it up, that's how you're going to get to that. Right behind me, you got your range hood / convection oven, which is pretty much just like home. The range hood, you got high and low, off with a built-in light. I always recommend running your range hood whenever you're using your stove. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you're making them. And since we're talking about that, whenever you turn your propane system off, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way into the system, it has to be purged out. So the quickest, easiest way to do that is just by using your stove, because you're in control of how much gas it puts out for how long. If you try and fire up your furnace or your water heater before you purge the system, those will only try lighting themselves a few times, and if they don't sense propane, They're going to throw a fault code, and if you don't know what that means, it could cause you some frustration. We do want to try to avoid that, so I always recommend telling people to fire up their stove first thing. That way you know there's propane running through those lines. And the way you do that is just push the knob in, turning it over to the high/light option and hitting that igniter. Now, of course, today it fired up pretty quickly just because I already had the system running earlier. But you'll see just off of having it off that short period of time, sometimes it can take a few minutes just to get all the propane purged through. Whenever you're operating a gas valve, always making sure that you are hitting that igniter every few seconds. That way you don't have a buildup of gas and a minor combustion, causing some lost eyebrows and eyelashes, which we don't want at all. So again, just making sure you are hitting that igniter so you don't have to build up gas. And there you go. So you're going to see now it does come through. Like I said, sometimes it can take a few minutes, so sometimes you do just have to be patient with it. But eventually it will fire up. And for lighting the oven, it is the same thing. This is going to be the oven one. Pull the door down. Right down below underneath, you're going to see that little gas orifice down there. The oven can take exceptionally long to light just because the gas orifice for the pilot is so small. So turn it over to the pilot option, pushing and holding the knob in, hitting that sparkler. Again, just hitting the igniter every few seconds. That way you don't have a buildup of gas. And there you go, you get that pilot lit. Once you can let off the button and it holds its own, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. You got a button here that also turns on some illumination knobs, and as well as if you push it the other way, it turns on the oven light. You're gonna have tons of accent lighting throughout this unit. They are on their own center push buttons, so you can kind of find that as you go. And another thing to keep in mind, if you look into the other slide out here, you got travel straps on those chairs, making sure they're latched down, because again, you don't want them going anywhere. And the same thing for the bar stools. The bar stools have to sit where they are, because if they sit underneath that spot there is a chance they get caught and slide out during opening or closing, and we don't want that. If you have some extra guests that you weren't expecting, this turns out into a bed. You're just having to remove the cushions, pick up the foot of the couch, pull it towards you. It'll allow you to fold down your legs for your bed, and you can take the back and fold it down, and you have yourself another bed. And then you have your entertainment center. Behind the entertainment center is a little hidden storage area. It's a massive storage area, so you could store anything you could think of back here. In addition, you got all your plugins and everything over there. Once that's closed, just noticing the TV does have that travel strap on there just to stop it from moving around during travel. Right down below, you're gonna have your sound system, power button to turn it on. It's pretty much just like home, minus the fact of your A, B, and C speakers. A is gonna be interior into this rear set. B is the rear set of speakers. A is the front set of speakers. We're gonna turn the sound off because we don't want YouTube to demonetize us. And C is gonna be for your outside speakers. And then right down below, you do have your fireplace, power button in the far right. Then you got your different flame colors you can swing through. And then right in the middle, you get your different rock light colors. And then that far one, 2 in from the left, you got your different heat modes. Pushing it twice, you get to low heat. Pushing it a third time, high heat. And then you got a timer that goes anywhere from 30 minutes to 9 hours. Power button to turn all that off. And again, works the same way as the furnace. If you've had the heat running, once you turn it off, it runs for an additional few minutes to allow itself to cool down. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.